All right, welcome to VP Culture Value Science lesson number 6. All right, so we're going to be dealing with the experiential value of wisdom. And as we've been discussing, we're moving from the creational values, which is the small things that you do every day, to how those small things create experiences for others. And in this class, we're going to be talking about the first one of the second grouping. So we talked about these three here, the calming values of trust, harmony, and peace, and that's the key to creating relationships. Now the excitatory, the energetic values are the ones that you use to create the activity in the workplace, really. You move from wisdom to nobility to joy. So today we're going to be talking about wisdom and how that affects the workplace and how it affects us individually. Wisdom, the primary question here is, do we know how to do life? If you don't know how to do life, you're going to be struggling. So this is the primary question that we have. Wisdom is made up of knowledge, discernment, and impartation. So let's go through each one of those subcategories in greater depth. So first of all, let's delve into the world of knowledge. This seems fairly straightforward, but in the workplace, it's learning skills and insights to value others. Now, getting wisdom just for itself is great, but really our goal should be getting wisdom that helps others, to be able to pass it on to others. So that's what you're using your knowledge for. And otherwise, knowledge can be just used by somebody to sort of, become more important or significant in their own minds. But really, you should be trying to acquire these things so that you can help others. So what is the opposite of creating knowledge, this value of knowledge that others might experience, is deteriorating skills and insights. So as you just sort of go through life and go through the motions, technology moves on, usually your industry moves on, and if you just never improve, you're actually getting worse over time, and that will affect how you serve people. So here's the next subgrouping, discernment. What does discernment mean? Discernment is knowing when to apply which value. So this is a sort of meta skill with wisdom. It's very important that you enter into and know, it's time for us to focus on creating trust. It's time for us to focus on creating joy. There's a time for each one, and sometimes they're mutually exclusive. If you just focus on just creating nobility all the time, you'll probably burn yourself out. That's a great value to create, but too much of it, and you'll burn yourself out. Not enough of another one, and you won't be able to create the other value that you want. So it takes discernment to know when to apply, when to focus on which value in its proper time. The lack of discernment is the over-application or under-application of a value. So you just don't know when to apply it, and you might get fixated on just having peace and harmony with everybody and never get anything done, or you might just fixate on getting things done and never having peace and harmony with people. You have to have a good, wise application, or discernment, as we call it, of the right value at the right time. Impartation, that is teaching and mentoring others, passing on good patterns of values to others. How well do you do this in your life? So this is kind of the fruit of wisdom is to be able to pass this on to others. If you are someone who is wise, you'll know how to discern this, and you'll know that this needs to be flowing to others so that they can use it as well. The opposite of impartation is going to be passing on bad patterns of values and applications, or passing on no values of patterns and applications, neglecting it. So either neglecting it or teaching bad patterns. So that, in a nutshell, is wisdom. There's a lot more to unpack here. But knowledge, discernment, and impartation are what you need to be able to create within your world to be able to create wisdom within your organization and within your teams. So one of the ways that this is done, we've been talking about different dilemmas, like how do we do this in our workplace? So knowledge, are you constantly improving your knowledge and skills? Are you stagnant and not growing? What are the little things that we need to do each week in order to help ourselves grow as an organization or as a team? So discernment, what does it look like to have a balanced approach to values applications? What happens when we get kind of stuck as a team or an organization and spend too much time on one particular type of value? Are there values that we're neglecting? So have discussions around discernment. What are the little things that we need to do in order to help us do this better? What does it feel like to learn? What does it feel like to be a mentor or a teacher? Just talk about what that experience creates for you and for others. What does it feel like when there's no teaching going on and no one's growing and no one's taking the time to help each other out? So what are the small things that you could do as a team to help create these things, go from creational to experiential values with your team? So it's good to take time to wrestle through the dilemmas of how to create these things with your team. All right, so that's how we move from creational values to experiential values, is doing it, discussing it, wrestling through how you can do it better each week. Okay, so competency. Can a leader perform the skill well? That's what knowledge leads to. So when a leader is not capable of actually doing the skills necessary to perform the job, that will cause dissonance with the team. The team will respect them less and not be able to follow them quite as well. So studies show that the competency of a leader will affect his employee engagement skills, his personal satisfaction skills, and the satisfaction of those around them. They will have less trust. So this is interrelated with trust. Building that knowledge and maintaining that knowledge will help people trust you more. Like when you go to a surgeon, you want them to have a high level of skill in doing what they're doing, just as you want your leadership to have a skill in engineering or consulting or whatever practice that you are doing in your organization, just like this soccer player up here is showing some amazing skills. All right, impartation. Those who are involved with teaching, mentoring, those types of activities are going to have higher levels of satisfaction. They're going to get more promotions in their career. They're going to be more productive, and they're going to have a higher retention rate amongst their employees. So they're going to have a 67% higher satisfaction with their overall life at work and increase the satisfaction of others around them if they're skillful and constantly implementing this impartation with others in their organization. Now we're going to get into the story section here. Now, personally, one of my early leaders who I worked with, he was somebody who had good intentions, but he really was a workaholic. So he had a really high capacity for work. He could work until 3 a.m. just about every single day, and then would show up the next morning at 9 o'clock. And he just didn't know when to stop. He was very driven. He really wanted to get his goals done, and he pressured others to do it. This is the thing. He never really asked or checked in, like, how are you doing with your energy levels? I know I have really high energy levels that not everybody could follow me. So he pressured others to do the same. He made you feel like you were shameful or less than if you couldn't keep up with him. So in the end, he lacked discernment because he didn't know when to apply certain things. He was really good at one value, which is nobility, working hard, and he would do that sacrificially. However, his implementation of it and his impartation of it made others feel around him feel less than, and he didn't express gratitude for the things that did happen. He sort of just made it into an expectation. So this story affected me a lot and was one of the reasons why I wanted to get into this field, to help improve this kind of interaction between senior people in an organization and new hires and young people that come into organizations. So this next story talks about the biggest computer company in the world, or who should have been the biggest company in the world. Who's that? Xerox. Xerox, we don't necessarily think of them when we think of the IBMs and the Apples of the world, or maybe, Lenovo or Dell or somebody else. But Xerox had a leg up on the entire industry because back in their day, their research and development people had developed the knowledge of the mouse and the operating, like the GUI, what we call the Windows and the Apple's based operating system, where you click on things on a screen rather than using DOS line commands. They had figured that out a good 5 to 10 years before everybody, but they never implemented or imparted that knowledge to the rest of the company. They didn't implement it into the marketplace. So they didn't have good discernment. They had great knowledge, but not discernment and impartation. So you need to have all three of these. Imagine what they could have been. The computer market is worth $315 billion a year. They could have dominated that market for years had they actually just implemented the devices and the technology that they had. They could have put patents on it and been way out ahead of IBM and Apple for years and years to come. But alas, that's not what they did. They had bad applications, and they didn't do what they needed to do. And unfortunately, they didn't take their knowledge, put it into action. So they gathered knowledge, but they didn't implement it or impart it to others. Now, one last story is another person I had the pleasure to meet. Her name is Carla Harris. She does a lot of investment into new leaders. So she started doing a lot of mentoring and teaching in her practice. She oftentimes will take a practice in her work at as VP at Morgan Stanley and set up a whole new practice. And she's invested in it over the years to help those people learn new skills and be able to implement new investment skills. So she writes books and she speaks, and she has an infectious attitude when you hear her speak. She really encourages people to be their best. So here she is, she's speaking at major conferences, and she writes books, and she's a alumni presenter at Harvard. So Carla is just a ball of energy and very inspirational in what she does. She really lives out the values of impartation and knowledge and wisdom in everything that she does in her role as a VP and as a leader. She inspires others to be really great people. So if you ever get a chance to listen to Carla or read some of her books, I would encourage you to do that. So let's listen to our questions now and focus on some of those. What's it like to collaborate with someone who lacks experience in their role? Question number 2. What does it take to make the right decision in a difficult situation? What are some of the things you need? Question number 3. What does it feel like for you to help someone else grow in their knowledge? How does that make you feel? Question number 4. How does it feel when your journey of learning and discovering new things comes to a halt? So answer those questions. All right, so that's our lesson number 6 on experiential values, wisdom. So thanks for joining us with this lesson number 6, and we look forward to joining you in the next lesson here at the VP Culture Value Science course.